Namato Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening everyone. So this is Achan Sujan from Warapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. As usual, I'm here with you online on Facebook. So this is a Facebook and Dhamma talk to you all. Hi everyone. Hi Manish, Colin, Sarala and everyone. So thanks for watching and following every day. Some of you have been following since April, beginning of April. Particularly like Colin and Sharala have been following ever since I have started this talk every night. And surprisingly, I managed to come online almost every night and giving you my thoughts and Buddhist perspectives on different topics. And sometimes it is based on the scripture, other time it's based on my experience. So today again is Friday the 19th of June 2020. I'm here with you. Today is the first day in Scotland that the lockdown is eased, but still so many other restrictions and guidelines are there to follow, and I presume this is also in other parts of the UK, and similarly there are other measurements and guidelines for the rest of other countries and around the world. But so far in Scotland this is a sense of a release, and meantime it's a sense of a worry and a fear too, that whether this coronavirus will return or not, if we become a little bit of a heedless or going around heedlessly. Before you jump into the freedom, I would suggest you to go and read the guidelines, or if you are not going to read the guidelines, at least be sensible, and be cautious about it. So welcome to this freedom, sense of a freedom, right? I thought that there was a comment from David asking other day about the 5 hindrances, particularly the 5 hindrances. So I will speak on that hindrances today. So before that, just give you a few information about the center. We are, as I have informed again now and then, that we are still working on the barn, renovating barn. Hopefully that will be done this summer, and we will be able to use that as a meditation hall and also other small activities. So Ajahn Pira is working very hard, and he is having kind of only single-minded, and despite of his any knowledge, he has done a great job. In the meantime, a number of devotees and followers, members have also generously donated towards the renovation. So on this occasion, if you are willing to support or help, either financially, materially or physically, you're most welcome. And all the pennies will be spent wisely for this renovation of the barn. We were thinking to have the ordination, 2 ordinations, but we haven't decided yet due to this Scottish law allows only 2 houses to come together and not allowed to have more than 8 people in one place. So we are waiting another phase which supposed to be having next week, and only then we will be able to make a decision that whether are we going to have that ordination or not. So it's being a very difficult time, organizing and waiting and talking and things. So, and we have to ordain before the 5th of July because that is the day when the Vasa begins. So that's why it's really a difficult time to make a decision, because we cannot bring the monks up here if this lockdown is still going on in this way. And then we cannot go down either. So it's quite a difficult time at the moment in regards to the ordination. So hopefully it will have it, this ordination at the center for 2 nominees, candidates, those who are willing to become a monk, and they have been staying at the temple and learning meditation and chanting and helping the monks, and basically learning a monastic life, just preparing for to being ordination. Right, let's back to our topic of the day, and that is the 5 hindrances. So 5 hindrance, or basically known as a nivarana, not a nirvana or a nirvana. Okay, nibbana is the extinction or the ultimate goal of a Buddhism, whereas nivarana means the hindrances. Nivarana, there are 5 nivaranas that obstruct, basically that obstructs us from progress in the practice, and it's also like a hinders our practice, and it doesn't allow us to get any progress in the practice. Or another way of telling or expressing the hindrance should be like, closing the doors for you to get in. So like that. Yeah. So the hindrances are one of the great obstructions in the practice of a meditation, or in the practice of a development of our spiritual development. Yeah? And this hindrance will come from the very day when we start meditating, regardless of what, regardless of a beginners or regardless of someone who has been practicing for some times, and these hindrances will be there, and always obstructing us from development. But before going into the hindrances, what we have to understand that there are 2 types of a meditation in Buddhism. Okay, there are 2 types of a meditation in Buddhism, and as we know that meditation is the essential part of a Buddhism, an essential part of understanding, essential part to understand Buddhism. Without having a meditation, we will not be able to comprehend what the Buddha's teachings are. Otherwise, it will be simply a philosophy of the Buddha. But once we have applied, and once we have tested or through the meditation, then at that moment Buddhism becomes alive, and you following the real Buddha's teachings. So, in order to follow or understand the Buddha's teachings, Buddha gave 2 types of a meditation, and which is famously known as samatha and vipassana. A samatha meditation is known as the concentration meditation, or calming meditation, or tranquilizing mind, or serenity meditation, and which been introduced a lot. And I think a lot of people, whenever thinks about the meditation, think in this form of a meditation, like erasing everything, erase from your memories. And that's why I normally call and tell the people that when we erase something or in a bucket, if we have both good apples and bad apples, so if we throw them in one go, erasing, so basically we are taking it out all, then in that bucket there won't be a good apple and bad apples, so all the apples will be gone. So that's the same thing with our mind, that when we think about erasing, basically it's erase everything, or blanking, like rubbering it all. So that's why the concept of this serenity meditation is understood wrongly here. So this needs to be corrected, that practice of a concentration meditation is not about erasing or cleaning or emptying your mind. So we are not emptying your mind at all. It's simply training to suppress it. And once our mind been suppressed from the rest of other disturbances or other elements, then that time our mind become focused, and that's how we feel tranquil and serene and calm and peace. And that is the state known as so-called emptying the mind. Basically it's not emptying, but our mind simply absorbed in one object for some times, and this is like having a drugs. Once you have taken a drugs, as long as the effect of the drug is there, you will forget everything. Nothing will bother you. But as soon as the effect of this drugs ends, then everything will come back to normal. So that is the meditation, so-called samatha meditation. And the second meditation is known as the vipassana meditation, and which is like a insight meditation, or insight clear. Clarity and things as they truly are, so-called the yatha bhuta jnana dassana. Okay, so understanding the way things are rather than the way we want it to be, and this needs an awareness of every moment, everyone, every things, and we will be able to understand that this is not the permanent, everything in flux, and the flux, the everything that in flux, we cannot take it as a substance, or we cannot take it as a permanent. And that is the ultimate of letting go, having any graspings. So when we have this background of this two types of a meditation, then we can understand these hindrances in more detail. Okay. And when we meditate in these two types of a meditation, doesn't matter what we begin from, whether we are beginning from samatha meditation or a concentration meditation, by concentrating on one object, which again object can be any. Although in the sub-commentaries of the Buddha, in Buddhist canon, so known as the Visuddhimagga, the path of purification, classified or categorized into 40 types, but that doesn't mean that you cannot have more. Anything that pleases you in accordance with your temperament, in accordance with your habitual tendencies, then you can use that object to concentrate. But in vipassana meditation is different. Okay? But nevertheless, we have to develop from the basic, stability of the mind to understand the purpose of Buddhist meditation is not just having a tranquil mind, not just a relaxation mind, and not just a cure or some illnesses that we have or discomfort we have. But it is also a path to the freedom from this cycle of a birth and a death that is taking us into the cycle of birth and rebirth again and again. So hindrances basically is supporting you to go back into this life cycle of a birth and a death, in the samsara, so-called cycle of a birth and death. Whereas practice of a meditation is simply to eradicate this, so breaking these obstructions, And now there are two ways to do that. One is to suppress these 5 hindrances, and then the second is to understand and uplifting it. So it's basically uprooting from our minds and our heart. Right? So these two types of a meditation basically working in two ways, dealing with this 5 hindrances. And these 5 hindrances are so known as the kama chanda, which means the sensual pleasure, ill will or vyapada, and tina meda, which is sloth and torpor, uddhacca kukucha, distractions or restlessness, and vichikicha, the doubt or uncertainty. So these are the 5 obstructions that obstructs from developing our mind, and these are the one which will always takes us into this journey in the cycle of a birth and a death. And as I said, and there are two ways to deal with that. One is suppress, another one is to know things as they truly are and then uprooting it. And here, when we practice samatha meditation, we suppressing these 5 hindrances. We're simply suppressing them not to be active and taking us into the journey of this cycle of a birth and a death, or taking us into this circle. Okay? So we are suppressing it. So as long as you suppress, it works. But the very moment when you are not mindful or when you cannot suppress it, then it will sprout again. So it's like a grass, a patch of a grass. If you put a stone on top it, the grass will just die out. Yeah, it's suppressed. But that doesn't mean the grass will not grow again if you lift the stone. And I have seen it a lot here in this center. We put a lot of things on the grass. And if we leave it for some time, the grass will become, if it's for a shorter period of a time, grass becomes yellow and sometimes it died out. But in a surface level. But once we have taken this stone or any stuffs, things from the grass, and a couple of days later, the grass again sprouts. So like that. So practice of a samatha meditation is simply to suppress these 5 hindrances, whether it is the sensual pleasure, whether it is ill will, whether it is sloth and torpor, whether it is restless mind, or whether it is doubt. So all these 5 we simply suppress. How do we suppress? So we suppress by focusing on one object. Doesn't matter what object, whether it is a breath or whether it is abdomen rising, falling, whether it is a color, whether it is verbalization of the word, whether it is repetition of the word, whether it is focusing on the colors, space, whether it is on the crystals, so many. So as we are concentrating on that, basically we are taking these hindrances out. So it's suppressing, not letting these hindrances take control us. Basically, we are strengthening our mental strength and power to divert these mental qualities. And with that, we will be able to maintain our concentration more and more. And that's how we will be entering to the jhanas, so-called absorptions. And to attain the absorption again, so we have to go through the process of a concentration levels. And as we concentrate in different levels, once it attains the so-called a neighborhood concentration or excess concentration, that moment, then these hindrances are completely suppressed. We are free. The mind is free for temporarily of these 5 hindrances, and that's how we attain the complete serenity of the mind, complete tranquility of the mind. But the other time, once we are not concentrating on an object, Basically, when we give up practicing meditation back to the normal life, these hindrances again will take control of us. Yeah? Such as when you start meditating, like meditation is a boring object, boring things, because you cannot see the instant results. There is no instant result of a meditation. It's not like once you have done 1 hour meditation and then everything is static, bliss, perfect. No, it doesn't work like that. It is similar to having a medication. The medication won't solve your illnesses immediately. You have to take in a certain period of a time, and only then it cures. That same, it happens in a meditation too. But what happens is the human nature is such that once we have done, we want to see the instant results. And with that, when you come to meditation, what happens is, meditation is not my cup of tea, so it is not working to me. And then meditation, you simply sit down and watch your mind, watch your breath. It's boring. Whereas in your day-to-day life, you can watch, sitting on a couch and watching a television series, so-called, what is the series nowadays going on? Coronation Street. Like that. So you just watch that, or so-called, previously what I was told, a Game of Thrones, like that. So you watch, and with watching that, it entertains you. And when you entertain, you feel like you relax. And that's the second noble truth the Buddha said in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, that nanti raga sahagatang tatara pinandini. The very moment when you have a pleasure in the senses, at that moment you will indulge in that, and that become a craving. That's become the cause of a trouble. So that's why whenever we meditate, the first obstacles will come is that when we do not know the benefit of the meditation, or wanting to have an instant result from the meditation, then the kama chanda, or the sensual pleasure, will kicks in and saying, the meditation is not good for you, it is not giving you any results, and it's boring, but rather go on like going into the pub or watching the telly or watching the movie is more satisfying the senses. And that's how you will give up. So that's how it hinders, that's how it obstructs your practice. So this is the result of not understanding the benefit of the practice, and that's how we hinder our practice. So that's the first meditation practice. Okay, it simply suppresses these hindrances, not allowing it to overcome our practice or obstruct our practice, or simply closing the door to see inside what's going on. So we hinder them, and with that we achieve the calmness and peace. And a second practice is the inside meditation, or known as vipassana meditation. And vipassana meditation is different. So in vipassana meditation, you are not suppressing it. You are not, suppressing these 5 hindrances. Rather, you are learning it. And that's why this is one of the practices in the 4 foundations of mindfulness. In the Dhammanupassana, the 4th one, the contemplation on the phenomena. The first contemplation is the contemplation on the 5 hindrances. And in that practice of 5 hindrances, once we have overcome, then it will not any obstructions in our practice. We will go in straight away into the deeper and deeper. So in the first 3 foundations of mindfulness, whether it is the bodily contemplation, essential, or the feelings, or the mind, we are working with these 5 hindrances, and most of the time we are suppressing it. Once we have come up into the Dhammanupassana, the phenomena, that moment we are learning these each and every 5 obstructions, the hindrances. Okay? So that is the way how to get rid of this. And in here it says that the very moment when we in a practice of vipassana meditation, when we are practicing, when that moment your mind becomes so sharp and you're working with your mind and how the mind works, and that moment you are simply knowing anything that sprouts, anything that arises in your mind, and that moment you will be able to see or detect the very moment the sensual pleasures arises, or the ill will arises, or the sloth and torpor arises, or restlessness is there, or a doubt arises whether my technique is good or not, whether my teacher is right or not, whether am I doing it right or not. These things will just come up at that moment, and you simply notice that at the very moment. So the instruction is that when these 5 hindrances exist in your mind at that time, know that you have that hindrances. See, it's a different. Early on in the samatha meditation or concentration meditation, you are not going to know that, but you're simply suppressing by having an alternative object to focus on. Whereas here, you are not diverting your attention from what you have been experiencing here now, but you are experiencing it that you have this hindrance. So kamachanda, or the sensual pleasure, has arisen. You know that you have the sensual pleasure. And then when you have noticed that, it just stops or stationed. And then slowly, as it changes into something else, and then that moment, you also know that the sensual pleasure is no more in your mind. And that's how, one after another, we will be uprooting from our minds and our heart. Basically, we are taking these hindrances out from our so-called consciousness, and that is the one of the main essential part to eliminate the taints, the asavas, that taking us into the cycle of the birth and the death. Right? So this is just the introduction on the hindrances. And background of hindrances, what it is, and following days I will explain one at a time on the basis of the time allowance, and we'll go on deeper into these 5 hindrances one at a time every day for another 5 days. So with this, in few minutes time we will have a chanting and a guided meditation followed by chanting. You're most welcome to join with us. If you're not joining for the chanting and meditation, we'll see you at 6:30 tomorrow. And if not, if you're joining with us today for the chanting and a guided meditation, then we'll see you shortly. So with this, I will end for tonight's talk, and may you be happy, peaceful, and stay safe. Take care. May the Buddha bless you, and see you shortly. Thank you.